Hi students, I hope all are fine. So in the last video class we found that there was Saint Peter and there was a lady who was very greedy, isn't it? So it's a legend of the Northland, or maybe a country or a place that is towards the northern part of the earth or the world. Okay, so it's a story as we have already seen, transmitted from generation to generation. That's why it is called as a legend. And in the story, in the last video class, we have found that there was a lady who was very greedy, and there was Saint Peter who was so hungry and wanted to have some cake which this lady was making. So Saint Peter goes and asks this lady, and the lady prepares a small cake. But as it was being baked, this lady thinks to herself that this cake is very big, so I shall not give this to Saint Peter. So, what will I do? I will make another one still smaller than this one. So, she prepares another small cake, thinking that would be given to Saint Peter. So as that cake also was being prepared, she realizes or she thinks that this also is very big. So I don't want to give this to Saint Peter. So that was a kind of decision which she had taken, because she was very greedy and she did not want to give anything that she has to others. Okay, now we shall just continue from where we have stopped. So she understood that it was she thought it was very big. Okay, that's why she thought she would not give that to Saint Peter, and she wanted to prepare another one. Then she took a tiny scrap of duff and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer. But she couldn't part with that. Okay, so she prepared a cake for the third time. With what? Okay, with the scrap. Scrap means some dust or some particles, small particles which have fallen down from the pieces of the cake. Okay, she collected those and she rolled it. Okay, she rolled and made it into a kind of wafer. Okay, just like a wafer. Wafer means, if you see, if you have eaten some chocolate, means that crunchy part or that white part is known as a wafer. So that wafer is very thin and it is easily broken. Okay, so we cannot call that as a cake. So she prepared a cake as thin as a wafer, and even then she found that it was not she did not find it easy to give to Saint Peter, because she said, my cakes and my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. So she prepared the third cake using scraps, and it was thin as a wafer. Even she could not part with that. She could not give that to Saint Peter, because she said, "Okay, the cakes which I make may be smaller when I eat, but even if it is smaller, if I am giving this to some other person to eat, they are very big for me." Okay, so though it was small when I eat, but that small piece of cake or that small cake, if I give to anybody else, even if it is small, I feel that it is very big. So she tells herself that. So then, good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Okay, Saint Peter was waiting. He was very hungry. He traveled around the world and he was so hungry, that's why he asked for a cake. But this lady, this is what she said. She did not want to give at least a piece of cake to Saint Peter. So, this particular act of this lady made Saint Peter angry. he was really annoyed to see the greedy act of this particular lady. So Saint Peter was very angry, and he was so hungry. Because of that only he was very angry, because he asked for a piece of cake and this lady was not able to give it, though she had more. Okay, though she had more, she did not want to give that to Saint Peter. So Saint Peter was provoked. Okay, he was provoked. Then what did he say? And he said, "You are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter, and fire to keep you warm. Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard dry wood." Okay, so Saint Peter was very angry in the sense he was so hungry, and this lady had sufficient and more, but this lady was so greedy, so miserly, so she did not give anything to Saint Peter. Okay, so this particular act of the lady angered Saint Peter. He was very angry towards this lady, and he said, "Okay, you are not worthy to live as a human being. You are not worthy to live in the human form, because you have everything. You have food, you have shelter, you have fire to keep you warm." It is a fire in the sense it was colder place, no? That's why Saint Peter is saying you have fire to keep you warm. But so Saint Peter cursed this lady, saying, "So now you are not worthy to live in the form of human beings. So what will you be? What will you become? You shall build as birds do. Just like birds build their houses, you will build your house, and you will get your food. Only you will get, you had plenty in this in the human form, but when you are turned into a bird, you will get only what is bare minimum, that is candy food. You will get your food by boring and boring. Here means to say just pecking on the wood. So all the day hard, if you peck, if you bore, only you will get the food, and you will have to peck on the dry wood. So Saint Peter cursed like that. Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. So the curse of Saint Peter changed this lady into a woodpecker. So when Saint Peter cursed this lady, she went through the chimney. Chimney is the place where in the colder place and so on, or in some of the European countries. Not some of the European countries. You can find in European countries there would be fireplace, and there are chimneys where through which smoke goes to the top, goes out of the house. So this lady goes through the chimney to the top of the house, and there she has turned into a woodpecker. Okay, she has turned into a woodpecker. She was changed into a bird. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same. But all the rest of her clothes were burned, black as a coal in the flame. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. Okay, so now what we say is this lady has been turned into a woodpecker. So she had a kind of scarlet cap on her head, and that remained on her head. So if you see woodpeckers, you will see a kind of a cap on their head, just like if you for example, if you see cock, okay, cock, there is a kind of a cap like thing, isn't it? Some red part. So just like that, there will be there is a kind of cap like thing on top of the woodpecker, on the head of the woodpecker. So that thing which the lady was wearing, she was wearing a cap that remained there. All her clothes burned away because of the fire from the chimney. Okay, so, and it is said every schoolboy who was there would see this lady as a woodpecker. Okay, so every country boy and every country schoolboy could see this very lady as a woodpecker, where she used to peck on the wood for her food. Okay, so in this poem what we see is she had plenty, she had food in abundance, but she failed to share to a needy person. That particular act of her has changed her into a bird, into a bird, and she had to search for food by boring on the wood. Okay, so it's a very simple ballad. I hope you have understood this. So in this ballad we have found, the author herself says in the beginning she is not sure whether it's a happened story, but it is uh, it is carried on through verbally to younger generation. Means to say, this particular poem or ballad will have a lesson for everyone to learn, and I hope you have understood the lesson of this poem also. Okay, so we have a worksheet. So there are some questions here. Which country or countries do you think the Northland refers to? Second question. What did Saint Peter ask the old lady for? What was the lady's reaction? Then, how did he punish her? Fourth question. How does the woodpecker get her food? Okay, these are the four questions. So I hope today's class is clear to you. Thank you and bye.